These comments might be strong, but it's how I genuinely feel. I don't care.
Hey! We're recording the podcast! Shut up!
Good morning to you, wherever you are, because it is
Morning Somewhere!
for November 4th, 2024. My name is Bertie Burns, sitting right over there. She doesn't care. It's Ashley Burns. Say hi to Ashley, everybody.
Look, I just don't care.
So I was thinking, tomorrow is the election day for the highest position of the executive branch of the American federal government. That is tomorrow, in case anyone didn't have that on their calendar.
And if you haven't heard, best to start paying attention, everybody.
I always say it's weird because I always associate November 4th. Like if you ask me what day is election day, I would say today's date, November 4th. Because that must have been like one of the first ones that I voted in was
Right,
it
you just
fell
always
on the 4th.
You just always have that association.
Like what, if I'm going to point you really quickly, actually, what day is tax day in the U.S.? Go.
April 15th.
Right. But it's not always because April 15th doesn't always fall
On a weekday.
like on a post office day, basically. So
But mostly.
Yeah.
But it's, this is it's like you have, November comes around, you have, election day, and then you have Thanksgiving.
Yeah, exactly. And like Thanksgiving, I don't have any idea. What day is Thanksgiving fall on?
I want to say it's the third Thursday in the month.
Yeah. And for me, like 4th of July, it's the 8th. Can't keep any of these fucking things straight.
It's fine. So after tomorrow, we're not going to have to hear about anything ever again. Is that
you
right?
summer child. We will. Yeah, it's going to be definitive tomorrow. I don't know about you, Ashley. I am hoping for a landslide. I'm hoping that it's a landslide enough that we have a ruling by 6 and we can all go to bed. Yeah, so tomorrow
it's a very stressful day because we're like, oh, it's this one day, and you go and you do your vote and you find out at the end of the day. But it's not. It's this whole stressful thing where there's every news station is doing nothing but this coverage all day long, and it's what are the exit polls and what are this and what states, and let's get our political strategists in to talk about what they need to do here and what's happening here. But at the end of the day, it's all counting, right? People go and then they have to count.
Well, now it's lawyers, too, because apparently both the Democrats and the Republicans are now, building a war chest to go into court after the election. They're just prepared to fight the election after the election now.
What a nightmare.
Yep, what a nightmare.
What a nightmare.
So I'm hoping for, a very definitive decision tomorrow. And the way we're going to handle it tomorrow is we'll have a list of the different battleground states and what time the elections voting closes in their particular regions and when you can start to expect reporting on those. So you're not just sitting there staring at your TV or doom scrolling all day long, even though, guess what? We know you're going to be doing that anyway.
Probably will be. But hopefully, everyone, this is the light at the end of the tunnel.
Light at the end of the very fucking weird tunnel. It's been crazy. Ashley, I would not have thought that the last 2 weeks of what a lot of people would call the most powerful position in the world, that by my accounting, the 3 biggest buzzwords that have captured the national attention in the last 2 weeks of this campaign have been, are you ready? McDonald's.
Yep.
Garbage.
Yep.
And squirrels now.
How did that happen? How did the squirrel thing happen?
I don't know. Sorry.
I mean, we talked about the squirrel on Friday, and then he became a political martyr later that day. We did learn, unfortunately, R.I.P. Peanut the squirrel was euthanized.
Yes.
Which,
which is now a political thing. For some reason, this is now a political discussion.
I don't feel like that needs to be political. I feel like we can have sympathy for the squirrel.
Yeah. And it's gone back and forth 2 or 3 times already over the course of the weekend. It is wild. Let's just do this, Ashley. Let's do this. I'm gonna come up with 3 words that have somehow these become the hot political discussion in the next 48 hours. 3 words.
Okay.
If any one of them captures our national attention again, you owe me $1 million.
$1 million.
Here's my 3 words. Are you ready?
Ready.
Charm bracelets, light switches, gravel. No, hold on. I'm gonna change gravel. I'm gonna change gravel to hubcaps. Charm bracelets, light switches, and hubcaps. If
Brady,
somehow
I don't think
those
you realize how politically charged light switches are.
You don't even have to justify it. Would you? If you had tried to guess 2 weeks ago, 3 days ago, that squirrel would be a hot political discussion. Everything is political at this point in time.
That would not have been on my bingo card.
I mean, make or break, live or die, you gotta have a fucking opinion about the, pardon me, rest in peace, goddamn squirrel. A squirrel. You gotta have an opinion about that in order to exist in America right now.
But it has to be the right opinion. Okay.
Otherwise, I'm never speaking to you again, and that's it.
All right, here's my 3 words. Are we ready?
I'm so ready.
Okay. Anime girls.
That's a great one. That's a great one. I have some things I'd like to say about that.
Ravens. Bird just flew out the window. So ravens.
Just anything you see in front of you.
Basically. Bunk beds.
Bunk beds. Okay, bunk beds. Bunk beds, ravens, and anime girls in no particular order. And mine is charm bracelets, hubcaps, and light switches.
All right, so audience, do what you can with those.
We would love to hear your 3 words. We're not paying anybody any money. Nobody's being promised anything. You will just have bragging rights forever if you can predict what the hell is going to be the hot button issue in the next 48 hours.
Tell you what, you can go pick up your winnings at Spirit Halloween.
We're talking about squirrels. That's what we're talking about. We're talking about squirrels. It's unbelievable to me. Unbelievable. Anyway.
It's too much. Speaking of Halloween, Bernie, the AI is at it again. Do you remember?
Don't blame me. I voted for the AI.
we talked about this several months ago, but there was that Willy Wonka event in Glasgow, the disastrous one, where there were all these images marketing the event that were AI generated, and they made it look like this really crazy, awesome, like very high concept Willy Wonka event for kids. And people turned up, and it was like one sad printed backdrop, and here's one jelly bean, and like part of a little paper cup of lemonade. It was just a miserable experience, right? But that event at least happened.
Did it? I mean, I guess so. Yeah.
Technically speaking,
there are photos of it.
But there was a parade in Dublin for Halloween.
I read about this.
Except there wasn't. So there was an AI-generated article online about this parade happening for Halloween in Dublin, and they got passed around on social media, and a bunch of people got really excited for this parade. Thousands of people turned up to this parade that was not real. This wasn't like an AI hallucination. There was no parade happening. So the AI was like, I see you, Glasgow. I can do you one better. I can make people come to an event that doesn't even exist. And they did it.
So the AI made up an event. And also, actually, I have to say, they say it doesn't exist, but if a bunch of people showed up, was there not an event?
Well,
doesn't this kind of become self-fulfilling?
Not a parade, but perhaps it became a party.
I don't know. All those people did have to walk there. Maybe it was like a parade of dumbass. Also, shout out to the people who are just looking for something to do at any point in time. Like, if you told me there's a parade, it's like, oh, do I have to go to this parade? People are so bored and willing to do anything that they went to a fake event.
Bernie, what I feel compelled to point out to you that we have gone to tractor parades. We've taken the kids out specifically to watch a bunch of tractors drive by. Tractors. The kids loved it. It was the highlight. We were looking forward to the tractor parade for like a week, Bernie.
I feel like though a nighttime Halloween parade, I'm thinking of like Austin 6th Street. There's no kids at that, you know? That's
Look, this is in Dublin, so it's in the city. It's there's a lot of people. There's probably a lot of kids around doing trick or treating and stuff. We're gonna go trick or treat and we're gonna go to the Halloween parade. It's gonna be a great night, kids.
Yeah, I get. Yeah, man, I don't know. I still feel like that's for adults. That's where like people wear like their. I've been liking, by the way, on Instagram all the couples costumes that I've been seeing. I like when couples wear Halloween costumes.
We haven't really been doing that. We've been kind of focused on kids Halloween the last few years, and we just haven't dressed up at all, which makes us kind of party poopers. We're basically an AI parade.
Yeah,
we just aren't happening.
If next year, I would suggest you could dress up as a slutty hubcap. I'm trying to manifest now. Trying to get my money from Ashley here.
Then you can dress up as an anime girl.
Don't threaten me with a good time. So what happened? So did all these people show up, and then how do you know?
And then just no parade.
How do you know though when it's over? Like they just give up after a while. Like you're just hanging out for a while, and then
maybe like you eventually look around and realize that nothing's cordoned off. There are no organizers. There's no one like clearing the road to get it cleared up. It just nothing. People like, how organized is this, right? Because I know British people are are well known for getting, like, you see a queue, a line, you get in it, right? It's very orderly. I don't know if that applies in Dublin, or it's like, did people just line up on a street and wait for nice things to come by?
And then more people saw people lining the street and going, well, something's clearly about to happen.
Right, I'm gonna get in on this as well. I don't know how it happened.
It would have been great because we say it's AI generated, but there's a person behind it. An artificial intelligence didn't just come up with a parade on its own, right?
On some level, sure. Someone somewhere had to put a prompt into something. I don't know if they're generating generate a list of Halloween events happening around the world. And the AI goes, I can do that. And for all we know, it was intended originally as make a list. And just like lawyers keep doing this with AI, they're like, get previous cases, and the AI makes up cases that didn't exist to use as precedent.
Or like the Megalopolis thing with the fake quotes, right?
Yes.
That came from other movies, and they just attributed it to Francis Ford Coppola films.
Yeah, so I mean, I'm not even going to necessarily put this down to like malicious intent for whoever put the prompt in, but what ended up happening is this not parade in Dublin.
I know there are flip sides of the same coin, but as we get further down the path and the slippery slope with this AI stuff, it makes me wonder ultimately, what's the bigger threat to us? Is it where you believe something that is fake like this, or where you get so heavily involved in scrutinizing everything that you're seeing that you disbelieve something that is true?
I mean, I think like ultimately the risk is that you no longer know what's true. Like there could be some terrible event, like something happens and you don't believe it because of course that could never actually happen. So you just write it off as that's obviously fake. The not knowing what reality is very dangerous, I think.
Yeah.
Like it just basically means that the internet is done. Like the internet is now a playground, but it's not something you can take seriously.
Maybe that's it. Maybe it's just we're at the point where it's just like the internet is not where you go anymore for any of this stuff. It used to be the wealth of information. And now, I mean, I can tell you just, we've talked about this before. Whenever the AI assistant that I didn't ask to help me shows up in my search engine, it just feeds me wrong results. And it's like, it's completely content to do that. There's not even a mechanism that I can see to give it feedback of like, you literally just gave me the wrong information.
Like, no, that's bad.
Yeah.
Dummy, go back.
I've even had it to where it tells me it's like, I was looking up some baseball stat. I think I talked about this on the podcast. And it was like, what was the regular season home run record? And they said 55, and here it is. And this is the person who did it, and it was the franchise record. It's like, I know it's not 55. And then even in the summary of its own thing, it gave me the actual number for the person who did it. And it's like, you can't even scrutinize your own paragraph that you gave to me to give me this information. It's just, it's insane. So yeah, I got to the point where I don't take anything seriously on the internet anymore at all.
Well, I guess what we'll do is we're all going to just move into like pod homes, ignore the internet.
You know about the San Francisco thing?
Yeah. So
crazy.
There's, I mean, I know this has happened. Like it's been a thing for like airports sleeping in Japanese like airports and things like that, like these sleeping pods that you can do. But there is. In San Francisco, there's I think it's an old bank that's being turned into like sleeping pods that you rent for like $700 a month.
Just lock you in a safe. No big deal.
And so, but like you see $700 a month, and that sounds insane. But then you look at San Francisco cost of living, and you're like, yeah, okay, I'll go sleep in one of these pods. And they look like, no joke, they look like, Bernie, bunk beds.
Don't how dare you. Are there any light switches inside the pods?
So here's a picture of what they look like.
Typical
like,
San Francisco liberal with their light switches.
They're like beds with curtains, right?
Couldn't even put a hubcap in that.
And so people are actually, they've got hundreds of applications for, I think what's left is like 17 beds left
Hundreds
available.
of applications. Can you imagine you get rejected for that?
You got rejected for your bunk bed.
God.
Here's what I want to know, Bernie. Before I give up everything, give up the internet, and move into a bunk bed in San Francisco, I need to know sort of like what their rules are. Is it like quiet by 10 p.m.?
Not a bunk bed. Stop trying to spin this article, Ashley.
Look, I gotta get my $1 million. Do you? I mean, it's like how many friends can you have over at a time? Is it a limit of 4 people per pod? No guests after 10 p.m. Do you have to listen to your Morning Somewhere podcast via headphones, or can you put it on speaker?
So I stayed at a Japanese pod hotel. I specifically booked myself an overnight connection when I traveled through Japan one time, just so I could experience staying in one of these pods. And it had like a little speaker or a little radio inside. It's round. This one looks square.
Yeah,
me.
These are not up to the Japanese standard.
I like we're talking about how it's so different. This one, the one I stayed in was round.
It's the future.
Yeah, it was a tube. It wasn't a box. It wasn't a tube. But it reminded me of like those hibernation for long-term space travel, you know, where they put you in like suspended animation or something. That's what I liked about it. I enjoyed it, but I think I paid like $300 to stay in it overnight. It was because it was in the location that it was in, and also it was in Tokyo. Cost of living in Tokyo is very, very high as well.
Right. If you're going to try to move into a bunk bed in Tokyo, it's going to cost you way more.
I mean, just using the charm bracelet index, it's astronomical, the cost of living over there. It's their fucking fascist government driving that.
Do you like your pod sleeping experience?
I did. But now I'm thinking it's like people are probably applying to buy these or rent them so they can sublet them like as Airbnbs or something.
Or like break it into and rent it to 2 families.
Oh my God. Oh, have you ever seen that in Hong Kong? I forget what they're called. They have a name, but it's like extraordinarily small apartments. I'm talking like 30 square feet.
Whoa.
And some of them even get rented by how tall they are, because you can stack things up inside in the apartment, like make levels in this like little column that people live in. And somebody did a photo essay. I want to say it was Vice, but now Vice is gone. So it might be lost of time, but I'll look this up and we'll link it in the linked up photos of this. But it's really crazy. It's like these tiny little apartments. What are they called?
Oh,
like tower apartment.
No, I think I know what you're talking about.
Coffin homes. I just looked it up here. They're called coffin homes.
Coffin homes.
As long as my AI co-pilot here is not fucking me over.
Well, that's a rosy name for those.
Yeah, it's probably a translation of something. And there's been a movement in Hong Kong, like development to get people out of them as well. But we can show you in the link dump where it's like literally like families of 4 in some case living in a space that is 15 by 15 or something like that.
Well, it's good to know that San Francisco is heading towards this utopia.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy. It's let me read here and see exactly like how big some of these are. Okay, it was National Geographic that did it. With where more than 200,000 people live, including 40,000 children, live in spaces ranging from 15 to 100 square feet. So even like my 15 by 15 was a wild overestimate of how big these spaces are. It's crazy. It's absolutely crazy.
I don't think that's enough space for a chicken.
But
like, I think like chickens are supposed to have 10 feet by 10 feet. A chicken.
Oh, when like to be free range, right? Basically.
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, no, yeah, I think so. I think that's the free range. Yes.
But it's interesting to me because like you look at San Francisco and the cost of living there, and you look at that versus other places. There was actually a story years ago about a student who's going to university in California, and he just did the mathematics on it of figuring out that he wouldn't live in the town where his university was. It was cheaper for him to live somewhere else and fly into the city in order to take classes and then fly back home every day. So he was commuting as a university student. So someone who's like doesn't want to live in San Francisco and has to travel into San Francisco for work, it might make sense for them to do this, you know? But then you look at something, the end result, you get to these Hong Kong coffin apartments. It's just a nightmare. And it's like, where are you on the spectrum of this particular nightmare?
Right. In which direction are you headed?
Yeah.
And unfortunately, I don't have a solution for that.
Yeah, I know. It's like, I know the, cost of living crisis in San Francisco is relatively new. It's been around since like 1950. But eventually, I'm sure they'll tackle it at some point.
One day, but it is not this day.
Yeah.
This day, we make it smaller.
Next thing you know, people will be sleeping in hubcaps. I heard you trying to get your bunk bed in. I heard you.
I was trying really hard.
I felt it coming.
All right. Well, I would like to thank today's bunkmates, Aaron Gertler and Zachary Soon, and also a shout out to Dennis Hop because we kind of spoke over his name at the end of last week. So thank you for sponsoring this episode of our show at patreon.com/morning somewhere and funding our bunk bed.
And thank you to the very adorable Julian for today's Morning Somewhere
That
shout.
was pretty
appreciate
cute.
It. So we want to hear in the comments. This is not an official contest or anything like that. No prize will be awarded. But we want to hear your 3 buzzwords of what could possibly become a hot button issue in the next 48 hours. And if you get any of them right, God, you will get the bragging rights for all time because it's completely unpredictable.
But only bragging rights.
Right. All right. Well, that does it for us today. November 4th, 2024. We will be back to talk to you tomorrow. We hope you will be here as well.
Bye, everybody.